Firstly, welcome to Central Library, welcome to Festival of Libraries. If you don't know about Festival of Libraries, it is an annual festival celebrating the power and the impact and the importance of libraries in Manchester. It is world leading. We have over 100 events happening, and we started on the 7th and we're running right through until tomorrow. So really excited to be here with you all. My name is Reese. I'm going to be your host for the evening. Get a few cheeky plugs in from now. House of Books and Friends. I've got books on sale. The 12 Words book. Please do buy it. And I believe that if you buy a book, they will give you a really big smile with that buying of the book. And we also have some wonderful authors who are part of the book, who wrote the book, who will be happy to sign it later on as well. So there's lots of incentives for you. And I also heard apparently that if you buy it for a friend, that the power of the book increases. And I also heard, and again, House of Books and Friends can confirm this, apparently they're only selling it in multiple numbers. That's just something that I heard.
That's true.
Something else I will flag at the beginning, so that later on when I remind you, you don't think I've just introduced a totally new thing. We do have evaluations. There will be a QR code that is stuck up in different places at the end. Oh, it's out here by the door. There's a few different points. We'll signpost you to them at the appropriate time. Please do, it's a really simple evaluation form. Scan it with the scan the QR code with your camera on your phone. It will take you to a really short survey. And if you complete the survey, you will go into a raffle to win £50 worth of book vouchers.
Is that real?
That's real. Okay. That's legit. That is real. And I think, but more importantly, your feedback helps us to make sure that Festival of Libraries continues to grow, and that is great, and that we get the funding, and that we prove to our funders that real people came and we didn't just, sit on a panel by ourselves and, I don't know, AI some people into a video, into photos. Yeah, I think that's all of the admin-y, boring type stuff out of the way. Again, thank you all for being here with us on the hottest day of the year. You've all made it here, and it's absolutely lovely to see you all. You all look absolutely lovely and radiant. And I know we're going to have a great time today. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my wonderful friends. I'm going to call them friends because we've spoken, in our case, for about 4 minutes. We disagreed about the football, so now we're friends. And we spoke to you for like 45 seconds.
For life now.
And we're now brethrens. Basically, I'm going around to tears for some dinner next week.
Trevor's cooking.
There we go. So that's what's happening because we're Mancunian and we interact like that. Yeah, and to the middle, to my left, is of course the wonderful Linda Brogan. I've known Linda probably for about 15 years, I want to say. Absolutely amazing work in the community, always of a high artistic standard, and always real and always says it as it is. So I'm absolutely delighted and honoured to be here with these wonderful women who are going to speak to you about their 12 Words book, which you are going to go and buy later on in multiple copies. So Linda, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about 12 Words, where the idea came from. What is 12 Words for those of us who are uninitiated?
So I get really confused when I say where this came from, but I'm going to really show off today. Go on, Jeff. What was you going to... Oh, sorry, I thought you said... I'm going to really show off today and say where it actually really came from, right? It really, really came from because I have been to 10,000 million writing courses, and I've also read loads and loads and loads of writing books. And the thing that is, they say, like there's the archetype, and there's the beginning, the middle, and the end, and this has to happen at this moment, and that has to happen at that moment, and blah, blah, blah. And when you're writing, you can't remember any of it, right? And then so I started in about 1996 when I wanted to write. And then about 4 years later, when you just get inspiration, I thought, the entire universe started with one thing. I'm super kind of genius person. It started with hydrogen. Do you know what I mean? Like it banged, it did hydrogen, and hydrogen made every single other thing that exists in the world, everything, right? So I thought, there has to be a way to do that. Do you know what I mean? So I started thinking about that. And then I thought about, I don't even know how or why this jumped into my head, but I thought, there's always something you cannot live without. Do you know what I mean? So now it's kind of done to death because everyone goes, my phone. Do you know what I mean? But when I first ever had the idea, people said other things. So mine was, at the time, was tweezers. I could not live without my eyebrows looking fantastic, right? That even meant if I was late, if it was, I'm not so bothered now. So it was about that. So when I started thinking about that, inside of that though is loads of things like I'm vain. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know, like, so, but also there's, it's an object, so you have to be able to touch it, so it causes action and it'll cause dialogue. So I started messing with that idea for lots and lots and lots of different, so I'd try it out in different places and then something would go wrong and something would go right. And then eventually I ended up with that you have 12 associations with your tweezers or whatever the thing is. And then if I said tweezers and then 12 things like plucking and mirror and whatever title I then set upon that will force something else to happen to you. So, but when it really took light was in prison. I wasn't actually in prison myself. I was in, that's another story. Yeah. So I was in a maximum security prison, right? So that's really important because I'd gone in for the day and you go into the closed bit where they lock you in, then they check all your body, then they let you out the other bit. And while I was in that bit, they said, you can't talk about anger, children, or the outside. So I went through the other bit, right, and then, so I'd been in loads of prisons and I normally arrive with white middle class ladies who have come to save the prisoners in the prison. And the prisoners in the prison act like white middle class ladies have come to save me, right? And the very first thing they do is they go, I can't miss no matter what you say to them, right? So I said, tell me something you can't live without. I can't miss. So long story short, I got them, the guards, and the 4 white middle class missionaries to do it together. So we all sat in a circle and we all did it together and they became instantly intelligent, right? And then we all like, because, oh, and I set the title, What Makes You Angry?
That's a rebellious one.
Yeah, oh, I have to be. So the guards went, you know, like they were going to kill me.
Switching at the batons, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then, so it turned out what made them angry was that they couldn't talk about the kids and they couldn't talk about the outside. Do you know what I mean?
They couldn't talk about their anger.
And they couldn't talk about their anger. And so they all read out their things. And at the end, so it was kind of like there was 30 inmates, 3 guards and 4. And there was also the actors who'd been in my play that morning. So there was probably about this amount of people in the room. And we all was just like we are now. And then we ended in a circle, crying, screaming, going, fucking hell, never, right? Do you know, like, and all that. And I was going to, so this is, and I felt like Clint Eastwood when I was leaving. Because when we was like, when I was about to go, everybody, I still feel upset about it in a good way. Because everybody like swarmed each other and started hugging. Do you know, and guards and yeah, and whoever was all, do you know, and it's like, oh my God. And I was on the train like, oh wow, something really special has just happened. Yeah. So I did it in loads and loads of other places, like posh places, whatever. But this is the first time I thought you could keep doing it week after week and make a book. So that's what we did.
Amazing. Amazing. One more question for you. Going back to, and again, probably the first time I became aware of the work you were doing, and it's really powerful in terms of community, in terms of history, in terms of agency, and us having, working class people, marginalised communities having the power to tell their own stories, was the Reno project. Would you say that the Reno project and kind of how you build that, the community engagement work you did there, pulling people together, helped you to build this project?
Yeah, definitely. They look like we're 2 different things. It's all about, we'll just fucking talk the way we talk. It's all about that every single time I went to one of them writing classes when I was younger, and I don't even know why I want to cry so much.
It's probably because of where you are. Maybe because you're so proud of what you've done
possibly.
With us. You brought us three
And
together.
it matters, yeah.
You brought us together. I have said things to you, to the two girls. I would never have said, I've never said in the whole of my life, I never would have dared. And yet, we had so much trust with each other under the guidance of the 12 words and the mentoring that you gave us. And maybe that's why you're feeling a bit upset, because you're so proud. And why shouldn't you be? We are.
Oh, thank you.
We are.
Lovely. So, while you're there, Catherine, I might as well bring you into the conversation. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the project, why it's important, why it matters?
Okay, so I got involved in the project mainly because I used to go to the Reno when I was very young, maybe 15, exceptionally naughty, always running away from home or not living at home. However, the Reno and myself did have this relationship. It wasn't a good relationship. It was quite bad, but it was a place that I used to go to. It was dark, it was deep, and I could hide. I could hide with the music, I could be myself, I could just do what I wanted to do, and nobody stopped me, shall we say. So when I found out that the Reno was being excavated, I was extremely excited, and I finally went down there, and I've met Linda once or twice and a couple of other people, and I would just watch what was going on, and we had a big party on the actual site where the Reno was being excavated. You could see down, you could see where the dance floor was, there was loads of artifacts. It was just amazing. Me, as a 15-year-old, now, I think then I was probably 55. I've gone back, I'm now 45. But at that time, it was probably about 55. And I'm like, gee, this is really happening. So I went to that. And then when that was all over, Linda kept putting this post out saying she's going to do a writing group. And I just read it, but I was thinking I wouldn't dare go. Why would it? And one day I thought, no, you will dare and you'll go. And I went. And they were there, all huddled in the corner.
Where we go?
And I turned up. Hi, come to join.
She didn't say hi.
I didn't have
Here we go. Please tell me that.
Is this writing group for everybody?
Attitude when I was 15 and attitude when I was 60. And no, it was 60 because I was in Spain when I found out and I came back on my 60th birthday. And I'm like, yeah, I'm having some of this. And they all stop and he's staring at me as if to say, who the bloody hell are you? And I'm like, I'm me. Hello. And Linda said to me, well, who are you? I said, well, I'm Catherine. And she's like, what? She said, well, we're in an important, pivotal moment at the moment right now. So go and sit down next to us, sat for an hour. I sat on my own for 1 hour with a cappuccino in the Whitworth Gallery Cafe, and I walked back, big coat on, bag on my shoulder, and back. So they let me sit down, I sat down and joined the group. I told them the story, then they suddenly realised, actually, yeah, she did go to the Reno, and yeah. So they let me join.
It's an initiation test, yeah? It's an initiation.
And the rest is history. I'm part of the 12 words, the book that we wrote together. And I am deeply, deeply proud of the words that I have written in that book. And there were things I've written in that book that I would not, and the last chapter I ever wrote, I would not one person in my life knew about it, but I wrote it. And that's thanks to Linda, and it's thanks to Carmen and Tia, because they trusted me and I trusted them.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Maybe that's as a theme we'll come back to later on. I guess the types of people who don't think that they can write or don't think that writing is for them. I know it's something we speak about a lot at Manchester City of Literature around how do we make literature more accessible. There's lots of words around hard to reach communities, and I flip that on its head, and I think that there's hard to reach art forms. Yeah. I don't think at all that there's such thing as a hard to reach community. I think that there are structures and institutes that we build that are inaccessible. But I think there's something really powerful in that you didn't see yourself as a writer. You would never have imagined you'd be here sat on a stage with a book that's sold out at Waterstones.
I still don't see myself as a writer.
Well, you are.
Even though we filmed it,
You
I
are.
still don't see it.
You are. You were right now.
No, exactly. When I was signing the chitty for what I was buying in next, I was like, hello, I'm an author now.
That's brilliant.
Nobody knows. I want to stick it on my head.
It's a nice badge to have. It's nice.
Oh,
it feels great. It
excellent.
feels great
Yeah.
seeing your name in a
Love
book.
it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Tia, you were interjecting about the initiation test that.
Yeah, to be fair, she was right because I'm just a little bit younger than the other ladies. So I didn't go to the Reno, but my mum did. So I've affectionately been called the Reno baby. So yeah, so that's my little link to the Reno. So actually, my mum went to the Reno and the Nile. Are they next to each other?
That way.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So she was a little bit of a wild child, and I think she was a clever woman, but just never got that. So I think talent is everywhere, but opportunity isn't. So I absolutely adore things like this, get our voices heard and stuff. So
your experiences of the workshops then, what was it like for you?
I'll be honest. So some you really look forward to going, but then because it was basically an excavation of our lives. So you like Catherine said, you're telling things that you've probably not told anybody before. So you trust the people that you're with, but then you think it's actually gone to the publishers now and it's out there. So it was a little bit kind of, like, here we go. But then for me personally, every time I did go, and even though I cried my eyes out, most of the times we had sessions later on, I felt a release. So I think I even have it in there in one of the lines that I've trapped that trauma in those lines. That's how I feel anyway.
So for you, it's almost a therapy. It's
Absolutely was a therapy. If Linda would have said, we're doing a writing workshop and you're going to have to tell me all your deepest, darkest secrets and all the bad shit in your life, I'd have gone, okay, not for me. And I would have walked. So it was... She did it, even though she's so rough and ready when she's ready, our Linda. There's only one Linda Brogan. She was gentle with us, so she would ask us these questions. Occasionally she'd say, don't get fucking clever, and say it how it is, So, and I feel like she brought the best of us together, and it worked, because we're different women, but we were all united. And this is one of the things I've taken into my workspace working with young women, is that there's too many young girls that have gone through certain things and we just don't talk about it. And it's time to have a conversation, not just Me Too of celebrities, but ordinary working class girls and stuff. So that's what my agenda was in all of this. So
that's really powerful. And I think Carmen's going to join us as well. So can we give a massive round of applause for Carmen, who is now here? We're just speaking about our experiences, or your experiences on the project. What were the workshops like? What did you get from it? And why is the book important? And Tia was just sharing about, I guess, the book allowed her to open up on trauma that she wouldn't speak in an ordinary conversation. And that her agenda became, how do I help other young women going through the same challenges that I've been through, by hearing my story and saying, well, maybe I'm not alone in this.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. And just showing it's not right. Certain things shouldn't be hidden and not spoken about.
Yeah. Yeah. So would you like to, I guess, maybe share about how you came across the project and what your experience has been like?
So it was to do with the memoirs. She messaged us, said, I'm doing this project, but I need to ask questions to people. And the first question she asked was, do you remember your first night down the Reno? No. But I remembered the Reno, and that's how it started. So we did the memoirs, that went on, and then she started to ask about the excavation, and that's where it started for me, going whenever I could, helping rekindle friendships, bring up relics from the Reno, and that's where it started. Never thinking we were going to get to 12 words, write a book, and be sat here. It's been one hell of a journey, and it's been traumatic, funny, tears, anger, stillness. It's brought back a lot of memories. It affected me very deeply, and it also, I think, went onto my family, because when it reflects on you, without even realising, you reflect onto your family. Getting from it has been like a whirlwind and like a volcano, everything coming out, trying to explain to others what you've written, why you've written it, how you've written it, how it's made you feel. Then meeting the girls. And the quietest thing about it was it happened in lockdown. So it was, we'd write, and then we'd have a day in the week when we'd Zoom, and who's going first? Oh, you go first. No, you go first. But eventually we all read, and if you want, we critiqued each other, we cajoled, if we could have, we would have hugged, we would have passed tissues, and we laughed. But we bared our soul. And for me, I'd never done that before. And now it's strange because you're waiting for people to say, oh, did that happen? How did that happen? What happened? And for me, I've said it in the book, I think, it was time for my honesty, which I'd kept hidden for a long time from various people. It was time for my truth, as I seen it, as I felt it. And from it, we've grown, and I feel that, not knowing, but I want to do so much to help people, young girls, and also the women that we forget that are older, that have held so many things inside, and they've got nowhere to turn. They don't pick a phone up. Are you all right? Yeah, I'm great. But it isn't. It's buried.
It's really interesting and really beautiful and powerful to hear you speaking, Carmen, about generational trauma. It's something that I'm speaking about a lot in my practice when I engage with communities, because, and I think definitely with racialized and marginalized communities, there are certain things, if we think there's a taboo in certain communities, that taboo is taboo to infinity. There are certain things we do not speak about. We know it, we see it, we acknowledge it, but we do not speak about it. And if you cannot name something, how can you heal from it? Yeah. And we have people that have carried something for 30 years of their life. We're a community that are from communities that generally don't access things like counselling. What's
But
that?
if you think about it, the generation that, I'm a little bit older than the girls here, and so I was born a slightly different time. And if you look at the book, we're all talking and we all stem from, yes, how we met and how we met for the Reno and what it meant to us, but we're also bringing up and seeing how we were brought up and how our parents were and how mainly it's mothers. And I, for one, with the girls will know, I didn't want to be like my mother. And there was traits that I had to stop to be like my mother. And I wanted to be a better mum. And I wanted to do the things that she didn't do with me. It's very hard. Also, from that time as well, and a lot for theories, there's the racial aspects of what was happening. You know, are you black? Are you mixed? Are you white? Are you African? Are you Jamaican? So you kept that down. I never spoke to anybody about that. You know, so there's so much that the book will resonate with different people, and I'm sure we can help a lot of people as well.
Definitely, and I think, I know there's lots of people, both of your generation and the present generation now, that can see themselves reflected in that. We talk about intersectionality now, a lot there, words that we use. We speak about what it means to be marginalised, but there's a whole generation that have lived through that for 30 years, and at a time when it was a lot more hostile, that we didn't have the space to have those conversations. So I think, just to reiterate how beautiful it is and powerful it is that you found the strength with the support of Linda and the project and the 12 Words process, to speak truth to those words and to,
That was a wonderful, how can I put it, entrance to it. Would never have thought to do that. I've always liked to write. I've kept diaries when we were doing when we were at the Whitworth. I'd always have the pen and paper, always asking the questions. Linda would go, did you get that? And did you get that? So I've always done it, but to actually put it on paper is so different. It is like, it's like you're looking in at that person, you're writing it, but you don't believe you're actually writing those words. But what a release it is. It was really good.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that, Carmen. So, Tia, can I ask a quick question? I wanted to quickly move on to the book cover, which you've designed.
So I fancied myself as a bit of an artist. And, well, actually, I was just to give a backstory, do you know, mothers in here will relate. Sometimes you just do a job you don't want to do just to put food on the table. So I was actually not utilising my skills, and I was working in this t-shirt printing factory, and lockdown's about to happen, and I actually get done for universal credit for this. I actually talked myself out of the job to the manager, and just said, look, I've got kids, why don't you just let me go? Let me go. So he let me go, and I just started painting and doing stuff, and we just started before lockdown, 12 words. So I had other things, and I was creative when I was at school and got told, no, do French because the Channel Tunnel will be open and there'll be loads of different. What a load. I've never really ever been to France.
And then Brexit happens.
You didn't need French, so. Yeah, so I didn't do anything creative at school, but I was good at it. And then I just, you get to a point where you think, I've just got to just do something for myself, and try to do something for myself. Started painting. 12 words was going on. And then Black Lives Matter happened as well during lockdown. So, there were people on the beach, and the newsreaders were saying, thousands flocked to the beach today, followed by protesters in Manchester. It was like ah. So if you actually look at the cover, you will see she's got a crown about to put on her head, but she's got shackles that she's letting go of. So it was a little bit of a nod to Black Lives Matter, because people were losing their tiny minds over statues being, thrown into canals and stuff, and even people I thought that knew me were thinking a certain way about buildings and stuff. So that was therapy again, just to paint that really. And it was about putting your crown back on your head. She's also naked as well, because to me it felt like people were just really just offended by our skin. Do you know what I mean? The skin that we've just got to walk around in, and you can be killed for that. And people were then arguing about guns and all sorts, and I was like, it was actually a knee that killed, Floyd and stuff. So yeah, so that was, even though it's a beautiful cover, I painted it in anger and stuff, and then neatened it all up. So yeah, that was another bit of release for me. And then Linda saw the cover. Lockdown must have left it. We were in a cafe, weren't we? And you said, no, that's the one. We need that one as the cover. No words, and we were all like, how's this going to work as a book? There's no title on that book, but I'm buzzing now. Everyone's like, oh, look at that cover. So yeah, it's great.
That sounds like Linda. Everyone else does it that way. Yeah. We're doing it different. We're doing it different. Who says you've got to have words on the cover? Am I lying? Yeah. I feel like I was part of that conversation. I love it. I do it. Last question for you, Tia. I'm going to ask, I guess, Linda to quickly reflect on the process, and then we'll go into a little bit of a sharing of some extracts. Even more incentive for you to go and buy multiple copies of the book. So, you've written a play off the back of this, so I think in many ways it's really lit your creative fires.
So I'll just do a quick plug, shall I?
Yeah, you should.
Right, so I wrote the book with the girls, and similar themes were coming through, and I was working at Ghost Hill Studios, and there was young ladies there that were telling a story, and they wouldn't access professional services. And they were, sometimes when you work with young people, and if you care, this is why I pulled away from mentoring at Trinity, if you care too much, it'll drive you crazy. You're up at 3 a.m. with worrying about certain people, and I thought, I don't want to do that anymore. And if I do wake up at 3 a.m, I want to put, pen to paper and do something. So I started writing a play, going back into work, and the young people started then telling their stories, and again, they were very similar stories. There's a lot of my own mother in there, alcoholic, kids to different men and all sorts, and then all these other stories around it. Anyway, the Lowry took a chance on me. I wrote the synopsis, I put it up, and she gave me a tiny, I won't mention her name, but she gave me a tiny theatre, and I just went, if I sell that out, can I have a bigger one? She was like, sell that out first. Anyway, so I said to all the kids, you know what young people are like, go and tell at least 10 people to go and get a ticket, and they did. So I said, it's sold out, can we have another one? So she's given us another night, so it's on the 3rd and the 4th, and it's called He Loves Me, He Loves Me Not. But lots of issues there, exploitation.
Amazing. I will be there.
I'll get you a
ticket as a professional.
No, I will
Please
pay.
support
I
it.
will pay for a ticket. I'll pay for a ticket.
Hold on, she didn't say that the theatre's the Lowry.
I did.
Did you? Did you?
You did.
Did she?
That's pretty spectacular. I think
No,
that deserves another round of
exactly,
applause.
that's it,
Another round of applause,
that's
guys. Okay, so Linda, my question for you before we go into a little bit of a sharing. What next for 12 Words? Where do we go with the rest of this?
I just keep thinking we need to do workshops where people do 12 words, where people do the exercise. Yeah. That's what I just keep thinking. I just keep thinking of places that we can go and then do it. Yeah, hint, hint. Yeah. And also I want to travel the world and show people how to do it. And I want us to do workshops that we do on our own, that Catherine does one in Barcelona and Tia does one in the Svalbard.
I like that. Take it international. We're going to go into, I guess, the sharing of extracts from the book. And then afterwards, we'll open the space for you wonderful guests to ask any questions that you may have. And then we'll give you the opportunity to go and buy some books. And again, fill in the evaluation forms and possibly win 50 quid book vouchers. Yeah, and be nice to each other. Yeah. So, ladies, who would like to go first? Who's going to share?
I don't mind, I'll go first if everybody's shy.
Okay, straight in.
I think we've already agreed Catherine's not shy.
There we go.
Hello.
Yeah, that's fine.
It should be on.
Did you want to go first?
No, we were just saying, look how pushy she is.
All the time. That's okay.
I'm used to it. So we have to stand up tonight. We have to stand up on Tuesday.
No, we didn't. You just chose to.
Right. I like to be heard.
That's what authors do. Authors stand up, yeah,
We like to be heard.
apparently.
Okay. Right. Okay. So the chapter I've chosen tonight is a short one. It's called "Why I Love My Mum." I'm one of 5 siblings with all different dads. Once I asked my mum why had she had so many children to different men, and she replied, "I was looking for love." That still blows my mind today. It's very sad and maybe a reason to love her for her inability to be happy with herself. Mum was unable to love her children, and I understand why now. When I was a young child and an adolescent, Mum drank vodka and smoked number 6. Later on, she changed to Embassy Reno and Benson and Hedges. She would go to work in the pub, and the Devonshire is the one that always springs to mind. Mum would come home late with men, lots of different people, sometimes groups of people or acts who were on at the pub. They would drink, smoke, laugh, play Irish music, pop music, any kind of music. Mum loved music. I would come down the stairs and see her happy, and it somehow made me feel safe. Until the morning came, she would be in bed with someone, and we would normally hear her shouting, "Fucking shut up! Get to school." She loved to swear, and she never got up with us. We would go downstairs, the house would smell of cigarettes, alcohol, stale sweat, ashtrays full, and maybe someone sleeping on the sofa, and I hated that. Mum had 5 children, which she brought up on her own. Somehow we had lots of happy times in our younger days. Mum would put on our Sunday best, pack a bag full of sandwiches, biscuits and cordial. She would take us on 2 buses to Lyme Park in Disley from Cheltenham and Medlock, or Crowcutt Park, Tapfields and Heaton Park. We would go on the boat around the lake. We went to Bellevue Circus on the Bellevue Fun Fair. We were the first family on the road to have a record player, and Mum gave my sister and myself 2 shillings to buy 2 records. She wanted Jim Reeves' Distant Drums, and we wanted the Yellow Submarine. We played 4 songs all night, which we loved. Soon Mum would come home with things like Trini Lopez, the Singing Nuns, Shirley Bassey, and every Sunday, we would all dance. There were many memories like this. She took us to see Mary Poppins, The Sound of Music, and the Beatles films. Still, she would go to work and leave us all night, sometimes the next day, on our own, and the eldest being 9 and the youngest being a few months. Mum always put her search for love first. She was robbed of her house in Chorlton and Medlock. She thought she'd owned it, but she found out she was renting it from the council when it was a compulsory purchase. That day, she put her head in the oven and made us watch her. She planned to buy a lodging house in Levenshulme, and now she had to get a council house in Withington. After that day, my mum became extremely violent towards me as I reminded her of my dad. She stopped doing anything nice with us and started going out more and more, bringing back men from the ships in Salford docks. I think they were paying her for her time. She continued drinking, shouting, screaming and swearing at us. I kept running away from home and finally got social services to put me into care. I was sad to leave my brother, as now he bore the brunt of her violence. I couldn't bear for her to touch me. There was a phase when she looked horrible, and I remember she smelled horrible. In the daytime, she would sit by the fire in her crimpling dress, waiting for us to come home from school. She must have been depressed. We did have food, but I never wanted her to touch mine. So, I have found many reasons to love my mum, even writing this, but I never found a reason to like her.
Wow. Wow. Wow, thank you so much for sharing. Really powerful, thank you. Wow, I'm just going to take a moment. Okay, we're going to hear from Carmen next.
A short one from me. The reason I hate. I don't really like to use the word hate, as I think it will come back on me as bad luck or on my family. I felt hate for my mum and for what she did to me as a child and to my children when they were growing up. I hate being in situations where I don't have control or feel uncomfortable. I hate remembering situations or having memories of when I was growing up, in the homes I was put in, going hungry. I hated being cold and frightened in situations that I could not control because of my age. I hated what people did to me. I hated that I hated. And it does, if that does not make sense. What is hate? Pain, fear, cold. It's not being you. Hate is dark, something I'm not. Hate is being angry.
Thank you, Carmen.
Can I just ask, did anyone go to the Tuesday reading? 1, 2. You won't be offended if I read the same? No? Okay, right. I'm going to do that one then.
I like that democracy element there. I like that. That's my stuff. I'm going to ask you guys what you think.
Right,
I love
there's 2
that.
of you, I'm doing it again.
Yeah,
Right.
it's lovely.
The best opportunity I missed. It's uncomfortable thinking about this. The best opportunity I missed. It makes you think about all the decisions you've ever made and your thought processes. I was once an adult education teacher working in an adult male prison. I learned a lot in there about the non-existent level playing field of life. I noticed most of the men, the inmates, the prisoners, were dyslexic, not illiterate, and it made me doubly protective of my own dyslexic child, because no one in education really sets out individually tailored programmes of study. It's an all-in-one, will squeeze you into this straitjacket that appears to have no sleeves, but is really causing you to wrap your arms around your waist, pulling tight, forcing your chest out and your head up as if everything is okay, because you're receiving an education. Your bits of paper you're working towards, a formal education which society tells you is weaponising you into something great and making you believe that if you don't have them, then you've not accomplished anything. I took the bus, the train and then the tube to get to that teaching job in HMP Liverpool. It paid well, so I sucked up the extra 5 hours of travel and tried to indulge my son on the weekend with material stuff, to ease the guilt of leaving him with childminders that spent more time with him than me. Day one of the job, the rules of clothing for women are pure madness. I've had a shirt on, buttoned up with the sleeves 3/4 length, showing my wrists, not my tits, not even my ankles, but the prison education manager told me I needed to change my attire and threw me an oversized man suit jacket. I didn't even know what attire meant. At first, my head thought he was calling me fat and was saying I had a tyre showing, so I bit my tongue. I usually wear heavy eye makeup, but for the job I hadn't worn any, trying somehow to not look like I wanted to appear attractive. An older woman, conservatively dressed but caked in makeup, comments on my eyelashes, tells me I'm gorgeous and I'll have all the men going wild. I'm 27 years of age at the time. I probably was gorgeous back then, but this woman is making me feel really uncomfortable in this staff room. A few others begin to ask questions. The age-old one that I know every mixed heritage person on the planet has faced. What are you? Human, I laugh. Code 4, here we go again with the dickhead questions. No, I mean, where are you from? Manchester, I reply calmly. Don't be funny, you know what I mean. I do know what this prick means, I know exactly what he means, but I've had a lifetime of having to teach the ignorant how to question properly without causing offence. My back is up with this guy because I've walked in on the tail end of a conversation where he's looking at a mug that has "Made in Britain" on it, and I think it's been made by the prisoners. He snorts, "Made in Britain, my arse," probably made by the black, and trails off as he sees my unfamiliar non-white face. My back is now well and truly up, but it's day one of a new job in a hostile environment, and my trainers are all brilliantly white, and there's every chance they all think like he does. I tell him I was born in Manchester, but then ask, do you mean where do I get my colour from? That's really what you want to know, I'm screaming in my head. This is so you can only slag off one particular ethnic group at a time, and be sure not to slag mine. I tell him my mum is from Ireland and my dad's from the Caribbean. The woman who's been banging on about how gorgeous I am jumps all over the Caribbean heritage. Ooh, bet you feel dead exotic, don't you? Blood is boiling. I feel like I'm cast back centuries and I'm lined up on Black Boy Lane for a creep like her to buy me. I respond with my blood boiling, masked as best as I can. Yeah, I feel dead exotic because my mum's from Dublin.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing.
I'll make it a bit lighter.
Yeah. Dublin is exotic.
Pardon?
Dublin's exotic.
Dublin, it is exotic. But, you know, most people who ask you that question, they expect that you've got a coconut bra and you live on a beach. Don't you when you say that?
Yeah.
It's
Don't
not the greatest.
exactly that exotic. I think that's fruit juice. It's not a person. It's like exotic juice, you know, I mean, tropical juice. But anyway, here we are. Okay, it's time to throw it out to you guys. Has anyone got any questions about anything we've spoken about today? Anything you've heard in the extracts? Anything you'd like to know more about the process and how we got here? Yeah. Yes, sure. I think that's probably a Linda question, isn't it?
The person who published it, Blue Moose Books, has supported the entire project. So they gave me money towards the Reno memoirs, towards excavating the Reno, towards the Whitworth exhibition. And then I first asked the Arts Council to publish it. And Kevin gave me a really great letter about why it should be published, and the Arts Council said no. So I said, if you mean what you said in the letter, Kevin, you need to publish it. And so he said yeah. So he published it, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I think for me, once you try and suss people out, and I think you have those people who have never been to a council that will overshare eventually. Yeah. Once they know that there's, and I think once we all knew, I think every one of us had, for want of a better word, an issue with our own mother, whether they were struggling with their own mental health. You were the child of that woman struggling with that mental health, and that's something that doesn't get spoken about. So I think it's a horrible expression, but it's almost like trauma bonding. So I've told these guys this before, so I don't think they'll break down crying or go, stay away. My mum passed away, she drank herself to death. So I've always looked for mother figures. So these guys are exactly around about the age of my mum, so it's kind of, I knew what I was doing, if I was honest. I was attaching myself to mother figures, yeah. And I've put that in there. And being mixed heritage, I don't just, choose one ethnic group. I mean, I always trauma bond with black, white and mixed heritage women because I want that kind of connection. So that's how I trusted everyone because of their stories. So I don't know how anybody else did it.
In the Whitworth, that's where we started. It was an open space, and it just started like with two of us. We sort I feel, sort of treaded very carefully and put our foot down. We watched our words. We didn't, truthfully, go into the extreme hurt at the time of what we'd felt as a child and as an adult. We just thought, oh, this is going to be great. We're just going to start writing a few words. And it was a build-up over weeks, because when we first started, it was very gentle. Although the chapters and the way they've come out are hard for some of us. Certain chapters are harder than others. Some just make you feel an extreme relief. So I think that's how we did it. And then we felt comfortable because we each took it in turn to read. So we would write, and then the next week, who's going to go first? And it would be, oh, you go first. But then I think we found a pattern, and the pattern was, who read first last time? And we would sit in complete silence and hear them. Linda would go, read that passage again, or sit very quietly and go, no, nobody read that passage again. I think, and then we probably critique and talk to each other. Also, I think where it got really trusting, which is a very strange thing, is when we went into lockdown. We're not meeting anybody. This is a form of communication. So we're meeting, we're on the Zoom, how's it been? And that's where the trust came.
Yeah, it's that thing of when you've got a relationship with somebody and now you're not able to meet in person, you value that even more, don't you? Yeah. Even in the digital space, it's we're not able to meet in person and have that proximity and that joy you get from being
I
in the same
also
space.
think what it was, we'd go, no, wait, read that. And then some weeks, one of the stories was so intense that you were like, right, we've read it, let's go back. But then the next week, somebody else's story was intense. And we never, ever, ever made each other or any one of us feel bad. We accepted, we cajoled, we cried with each other, we held hands in that sense. And we just lifted each other up because of the trauma that we've been through. And to lift somebody up from the depths of despair, although we're writing, gave you the calmness and the trust that therefore we could speak about anything. And to this day, we've spoke about things that maybe are not in the book, maybe will come out in another book, but we do know, sat here, that they will stay within us. That is a trust. And that's a different trust. Yeah, that's how I see it.
Can I just give you a funny story as to what made me continue?
After the initiation, yeah?
You're going to love this one, Linda. So, I go along after the initiation. So the following week, I've been given the same scenario, the 12 words, and I turn up with mine. I thought was a great chapter. So I'm like, I've written this, and all I'm thinking is, you can't say that won't work, you've got to say this. So I read this chapter, and it's a really, really profound chapter. So Linda, she's listening, and she goes, you can't fucking say that. I said, what do you mean, Linda? She said, who the fuck uses the word devour? And it just come out of the stayed in Reno at 4 in the morning. So what had happened, I'd written that I've come out of the Reno, it's 4 in the morning, and anybody who's been to the Reno will know that next door there was a shop that sold curry patés. So I ordered curry patés.
So we've got Benage, we've got Benage and pâtés.
I don't know what you call them, I call them patés. What do you call them? Patés. Anyway, so I bought my paté.
Back in the room.
Yeah, so I've now bought it, and I'm thinking, I'm writing this chapter, and I'm thinking, well, you know, you want to appeal to the audience. The audience don't want to know. You stuffed it in your face. You want to say the right word. I'd devour it. And Linda said to me, "Fuck off, fuck off." And I thought, fair enough. So following week, I'm off. I've got a new chapter. But this chapter, I understand, and that's where this came from. I'm telling you now, she taught me the best lesson about writing. You don't write for what people you think the audience want to hear. You don't use them words. You use the words that come from your heart. So from Devour, I use stuffed. When you read that chapter, you'll remember that. And that's how I found my trust. Thank you.
I'm now trying to figure out whether you were told to F off because of the curry pate or if it was Devour.
Hang on, that's the first time I've ever heard
It was a
the
mixture.
pate being wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that. I do call them patties. What do you call them?
Patties.
Patties.
Oh, well, I bet.
Yeah. But you know what though? You know what though?
Stuff it.
I think
Hang on. You
I think-
still stuff it in your mouth.
I think patés is what if you had one in the northern quarter, it becomes a pate. And they charge you £5.70 per, and they put mayonnaise on top. And that place is called Turtle Bay. Sorry, so true story. It's like, why is there salad cream on my patty? Like, and why is there a knife and anyway? Sorry, that's another book. That's another book. Why is there salad cream on my patty? And why is there a knife and fork either side? Yeah, Jason knows. I've seen Jason here. Jason knows. He got the same salad cream on his patty as well. Not been back since. Oh gosh. Okay. We've probably got time for one more question, and then two more. We've got two hands. We can take the two questions, and then we're gonna basically give you the chance to go and buy the multiple copies of the books. Okay. Okay. Gonna start with my friend here.
That's why we did the 12-word thing. So Linda would say to us every week, pick an object. So we pick the object. Let's say this water bottle. Then you'd have to write 12 words pertaining to that water bottle. When we went, then Linda gave us a chapter, then we would set ourselves a time, a space where in our house, and let's say we picked Sunday, 7 o'clock. So every Sunday at 7 o'clock, you'd go to that space and you'd put your music on, light your candles, whatever made you relax, and you'd open your book, you'd see that, and you'd read the words, and you'd just concentrate, and you'd just write, and you had to add all of those words into your chapter. So that was a focus, and the mission was just to write. You do write from your heart, you write it one time, you don't go over it, and you don't read it, you just write it once, and that's it, because that's the only truth. Everything else, once you go back, you start scribbling things out, and you've lost it. And that's what Linda taught us.
Go on, Catherine, fucking hell, man. She's better than me. That's it, wow. Wow.
Yeah, anything to add?
No, yeah, everything you've just said there. So I actually know Janet has asked that question. So I think if you're going through some stuff, you will torment yourself by writing and doing edits. So if you do buy the book, and it does show you kind of, and if you read some of our chapters, I'm wondering if you do a revised version of this with our actual words at each chapter.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because, so for example, that one, what I've just read, it's to do with the best outfit you ever wore, and I'm not a girly girl. I've washed my hair, it's down today. But, so when I'm talking about the straight jacket, and I say my trainers are all white, I'm actually talking about the teacher trainers, but I'm also talking about an outfit which comes on later on. So the outfit is already broken down into 12 bits, which kept me focused and didn't make me drift off into other chapters and stuff. So if I'd have picked something that I wanted to get out that was traumatising, then it wouldn't have worked. But because I've been given the title, I've worked towards that title, and then my truth come out. But yeah, absolutely, don't edit it because it's not authentic anymore. Whatever was coming out, hand, pen to paper was
meant to be.
yeah. Was meant
Oh,
to
that's a big thing, pen to paper.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well was that they each chose a time and a place that was in the house or wherever, and that was a safe space. So when you enter there, you go in to do that, and when you leave there, you leave that behind. And you only do an hour. So, you know, like normally if you're writing, you worry all week about your chapter, but no, you do it in that hour, it's done. Whatever you've wrote, even if, because when Carmen did that hate thing, it would have seemed unprofound to her to just write that. But when she's just read it out, it's like really profound. It's like, in it, do you know what I mean? Because it's coming out of her heart.
Because the other thing that the girls may or may not relate to, but which happened to me quite a bit, as I said it to them in the sessions, you've got your object, you've got your 12 words. Sometimes you focus too much on your 12 words. You have to come away from that. You have to look at those 12 words. You've put them there for a reason. Go back to your title, have a look. And then just what is in there right at that minute is what comes to the paper. Having had that subconsciously there, they will come in wherever it comes in your paper. And the other thing that we always said was, depends where you were. Mine was 11 o'clock on a Sunday. Put my music on, incense burning, and a brew. By the end of it, I wanted to lie on the floor and intravenously drink gin.
I used to genuinely, when we first started.
She did.
Sorry, when we first started, we actually used to meet at Whitworth Gallery, because that's where the Reno exhibition was. And I lived in a place called Cullington, which is just outside of Northwich. And so it was like a 35-mile drive into Manchester or whatever. And we'd all sit, we'd all write these chapters. I would go away already with my head stood on edge and have this journey home. The whole journey home I would play Fire and Desire. Nothing else, just one track. I couldn't wait to get in the house so I could rip my coat off, get my pyjamas on and get the wine. Still playing Fire and Desire, but now with the wine. So now I'm rolling around the floor and crying and I'm still singing Fire and Desire. And I still do it now.
Thank you so much for that. But we've literally got time for this question. We need to be really quick with the answers. Yeah, got time here, and then we have to then wrap up. Yeah.
The quick one, the first story, they're all in order. I did nothing whatsoever is edited. Not how they came out, not when they told the story. None of the stories are edited. Nothing. The punctuation was done. So what was the other part of your question, Helen?
I wrote, and the first chapter was The Reason I Hate. That's why I read it tonight. Tuesday night, I read something totally different. Tia, The Reason I Hate Racism. What was Catherine's?
Catherine's was essay.
Yeah, and Catherine's was essay and that. And they were all different. And we put that word down. That was hard for me to write. But it wasn't one of my hardest to write. There was harder. And some were harder than others. Some was more traumatic, more feeling, more hurtful. I don't know, sometimes we would sit there, I know Linda said we do an hour, but sometimes you just sit and look at the words, or that one word, and then all of a sudden something just comes into place, and you write, and then you can't stop. And that's getting it out when you cannot stop. although everyone said on here that mine were too short.
We didn't. We said that she wrote like, Carmen writes like a poet.
Yeah, she does write like a poet. Well, I've not written. I don't know if you got onto this, but I never did The Reason I Love My Mum. However, I've done enough chapters on my mum. She's there, just alive and kicking and playing.
No, they can't do the 12 words. You
Just couldn't write. We just like
No,
No.
no.
writing. There's nothing in my.
And it wasn't difficult to write. I mean, like my first one, the essay one. I mean, that is a traumatic chapter to read. But for me, to sit and write it, once I realised, I mean, you know, well, I was still using Devour at that time. But once I realised, you know, what I was writing and how deep it had been trapped inside me for all that time, I just wrote. I didn't stop writing until I finished. I never thought we can't do that or what are you going to write next. It just happened.
And also, before I forget, that what you will find difficult is because you're on your own.
Yeah.
Because when we was together, they would write at home, but our meetings would be 3-4 hours long. Because they go, oh, when my mum did that, and I go, oh, fucking hell, my mum did that. Do you know what I mean? Like, and we'd write entire books between us, and then go back. So that, yeah.
And Linda always listened to everything we wrote and said, and then from whatever we'd written and said, she would pick just a word or 2 words out, and that's your title. So everything kind of followed on, even though they're all very different stories. There was always a title that came from the last chapter.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. I'm sorry to bring it to such a quick close. We do have to be out, and we've still got the opportunity to sign books. Please do continue these conversations as we're going to buy books, and our ladies are going to sign books for you. Can we give a massive round of applause, please, for Carmen, for Tia, for Linda, and for Catherine?